Violet and Greg, who work on an aircraft carrier, have been hearing strange noises at night. When the air alarm goes off, Violet senses something unusual is happening. On the top deck, surrounded by chaos, she notices Greg is missing. A co-pilot frantically points to the horizon where something is approaching at high speed. Pilots are ordered to stand by, but questions remain: what is coming toward them, and where is Greg? But before we start, smash the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our upcoming stories. Violet and Greg have been working on an aircraft carrier for a couple of months now. They are transporting aircraft overseas and haven't seen land in weeks. Their lieutenant wasn't specific about what kind of aircraft they were transporting. They only know they are headed from Ireland to America. Greg works on the ship's top deck, prepping the planes so they are ready for their arrival. 8 planes need last-minute mechanical work done, and Violet's plane is one of them, though she makes sure everything goes smoothly as Greg does his thing. Rumors are prevailing on the ship about 2 people sneaking around. No one knows if it's true, but they will be caught and punished if it is. Greg and Violet don't really pay attention to these rumors until one of them starts noticing strange things themselves. Violet has been unable to sleep at night. All the lights go out around 10, and usually it is pretty quiet after that. But in the last 2 days, she has been woken up multiple times by strange noises. She heard the sound of metal banging together and thought it was someone working late at night, but she was wrong. She asked Greg the following day, and he too said he had heard these sounds. They decided to investigate that same evening. They went to bed as usual, but waited until everyone was asleep. Then they snuck out of their rooms and met at the stairwell. It was forbidden by contract for men and women to sneak out of their rooms. Everyone was separated and even had bathrooms attached to their rooms so they didn't have to walk the hallways at night. That is why they had to be extra careful not to get caught. Violet arrived at the staircase first. She listened closely to the silence. As soon as she heard footsteps, she thought it would be Greg, but then she heard a voice she didn't recognize. She quickly hid behind the stairs and hoped for the best. Violet's heart pounded faster and faster as the footsteps came closer and closer. Whoever was coming was on the other side of the door, right next to her. The handle went down and the door swung open slowly. To her great relief, it turned out to be Greg who had walked through the door. It was then that they heard the sound again. The sound was faint, but it was certainly coming from downstairs. The pair knew that they had to find out what the noise was. It could be that something is broken and the ship was in danger. They expected to be on the right floor after each staircase, but the sound never seemed to get any closer. The sound had to be coming from the ship's lowest part, about 20 floors down. The sound had been strange, but she was tired and it was definitely not in her department. It was likely someone up working late, as was common for the ship. Greg decided to keep going and promised to let Violet know if he found anything strange. Violet was satisfied with that and went back to bed. Luckily, all of her roommates were still asleep. She had no idea what she would have done if she'd been caught. The cargo that they would be adding to their ship was highly valuable and dangerous. She wasn't sure what it was, but everyone knew that security would be going up. But when Violet woke up, she knew something was terribly wrong. Violet got up and went to work. She expected to find Greg working on her plane, but he was nowhere in sight. She waited a half hour, but he didn't show up. She decided to ask her lieutenant about Greg, but the lieutenant gave her more questions than answers. The lieutenant's answer was vague. He told Violet to mind her own business and that Greg was moved to work on a different part of the ship. But why? Maybe he'd been caught and then locked up, but that news would have spread like wildfire. So, where was Greg? Violet went downstairs to look for Greg during her lunch break. She'd gotten down almost 10 flights of stairs when she heard the strange sound again. It was then that she realized what it was. It was Morse code! Violet grew pale and knew she had to warn someone about the code's message. They were about to be under attack. It was then that the air alarms went off. Chaos erupted all over the ship and everyone ran to their stations with the orders that they were on standby to take off. Violet thought this might be a drill at first to test their security, but as she got onto the deck, she noticed something on the horizon. It was a little black dot, but it was quickly getting bigger. Every pilot got into their aircraft and waited. Violet's plane had been fixed that morning and she got in too, but that's when she noticed something else. The thing got closer and closer every second, but it looked familiar. She'd seen it on the dock the night before. It was going to be loaded onto the ship today. It was then that the gears started to turn in her head. It was a crazy idea, but maybe this was a drill to test their security, especially since that black dot in the sky was incredibly dangerous and valuable. If someone were to steal the object and use it against them, it would prove to be a very sticky situation. The tension on the deck was palpable. Violet, like every other pilot, waited for the takeoff orders. Knowing what it was in the sky coming toward her was terrifying. She hoped that her theory was right, or this could be her last flight. The stillness aboard the SS Aurora was almost deafening. Crew members exchanged uneasy glances. There, an enigmatic object loomed, suspended in the vast expanse of the sky. Instruments beeped their warnings, adding to the rising dread, but no one dared speak of what they were all thinking. An eerie calm settled over the ship as an unfamiliar voice crackled through the radio, issuing a directive for immediate reconnaissance. The crew's unease deepened, whispers of speculation rippling through them. The weight of the decision loomed heavy. Who would be chosen to confront the unknown? All eyes turned toward Violet as Commander Riker fixed his gaze on her. The unspoken message was clear: she was the best choice. In the ship's vast hangar, technicians swarmed around Violet's jet, the Falcon. Each component was meticulously inspected, from the thrusters to the onboard communication systems. Violet, clad in her sleek pilot suit, watched closely. She listened intently as the head technician briefed her on minor adjustments made to boost the Falcon's defense capabilities. With a deep breath, Violet climbed into the cockpit, gearing herself mentally for what lay ahead. The roar of the Falcon's engines shattered the silence. As the hangar doors parted, the ship's crew watched in awe, many sending silent prayers. Violet's grip tightened on the controls. The mysterious object grew larger in her sight. With each heartbeat, she flew closer, her sensors pinging continuously, collecting data. The vast unknown stretched before her, but she was undeterred. Inside the SS Aurora's observation deck, every gaze was fixated on the display screens. The small, illuminated dot representing Violet's jet moved steadily towards the vast unknown entity. Her fellow pilots, technicians, and even the ship's janitors found themselves there, sharing in the suspense. Each person held on to whatever hope they could muster, silently urging Violet forward, praying for her safe return. As the nebulous cloud surrounding the object loomed closer, uncertainty clawed at Violet's mind. With her fingers gripping the controls, she closed her eyes momentarily, preparing for whatever awaited her. Penetrating the thick haze of the cloud, an uncanny sight greeted Violet's eyes. Encased in the misty curtain was an aircraft, unlike anything she'd seen before. Its design was otherworldly, with sleek lines and shimmering surfaces that defied conventional aerodynamics. Intrigued, Violet attempted to establish a communication link, hoping to uncover the craft's intent. Just as Violet began her attempts at contact, her headset erupted with sharp static. She struggled to tune her radio, but every frequency was overwhelming. The screens displayed fragmented data, making it nearly impossible to convey her discovery to the SS. Alarmed by the increasing disturbances, Violet's instincts screamed for her to return to the safety of the ship. Engaging her thrusters, she attempted to distance herself from the mysterious aircraft, but as she initiated her descent protocol, warning lights flashed. The landing systems were malfunctioning. Panic threatened to engulf her. Glancing downward, Violet noticed rapid movement on the Aurora's deck. From her altitude, she couldn't discern details, but the unmistakable signs of chaos below were evident. With her heart racing, she wished she could lend aid or at the very least comprehend the root of the disturbance. Amidst the commotion, a jet from the Aurora's fleet began to taxi. To Violet's astonishment, the aircraft bolted forward without warning, its engines roaring fiercely as it lifted from the deck. The jet seemed to move of its own volition. On the deck of the Aurora, panic escalated. As the rogue jet blazed along the runway, crew members scattered in every direction, desperate to dodge its unpredictable path. Alarms blared, red warning lights cast an ominous glow, and urgent shouts filled the air. Watching the unfolding chaos below, a surge of determination filled Violet. She couldn't remain a passive observer. Banking her jet sharply, she pursued the runaway aircraft. Its path seemed aimless, zigzagging through the sky. She narrowed the gap, weaving between clouds, her sensors focused on its trail. As Violet adjusted her radio frequency in an attempt to hail the rogue jet, a cacophony of static filled her ears. However, as she persisted, the disturbance started to fade, replaced by a broken but discernible voice. The radio crackled, and after a brief hesitation the voice solidified. "Greg!" Relief washed over Violet for a split second before confusion took hold. Why was he in that jet? Unanswered questions swirled in her mind as his urgent words echoed through the comms, urging her to follow. His voice was tinged with urgency. The turmoil in her heart deepened, torn between duty and loyalty. Determined to uncover the truth, Violet pressed on, her jet's engines roaring in tandem with her racing heart. The horizon blurred as the two aircraft danced a high-octane ballet across the vast sky. Every sharp turn and sudden dip was met with an equally deft maneuver. Her duty as a pilot and her feelings towards a friend were in conflict, making every second a test of resolve. With each passing minute, it became evident that this wasn't a mere game of cat and mouse. Greg's flight pattern suggested a destination, a purpose. Every move was calculated, every turn deliberate. Clouds rushed by as the sun started its descent, casting a golden hue over the chase. As Violet closed in on Greg's jet, his maneuvers grew erratic, smoke trailing from one engine. Sensing his vulnerability, she expertly cornered him, forcing a controlled descent onto a remote airstrip. Disembarking, she approached Greg, demanding answers. He emerged, looking worn and desperate. "I needed to set things right. You wouldn't understand," he murmured cryptically. Before they could speak further, reinforcements arrived, surrounding them. Both were escorted back to the ship under heavy scrutiny. As they landed, tension filled the deck, whispers spreading among the crew. Commander Riker strode toward them, his fury barely contained. "I want answers, now!" Before they could respond, a shrill alarm cut through the air. A ship-wide announcement blared. "Security breach detected! Critical data files compromised." The mood shifted instantly from anger to panic as the crew launched into action, scrambling to contain the threat. Amid the chaos, Violet realized the strange cloud and Greg's actions were a deliberate distraction. As the search continued, Greg slumped against his jet, defeated. The truth emerged. He had stolen valuable data, using the diversion to complete his mission. Greg revealed he had been blackmailed, his family threatened. His betrayal was not his alone. Officer Lana was also involved, deepening the crew's shock. Interrogations uncovered a carefully orchestrated breach, exploiting ship vulnerabilities. The stolen data contained military secrets, capable of global disruption. Violet struggled with conflicting emotions. Greg's desperation was real, but trust was shattered. The ship slowly recovered, enforcing stricter security, though suspicion lingered. At his tribunal, Greg was found guilty. Instead of prison, he was sentenced to work under surveillance, using his skills for the ship's benefit. Machines whirred and hushed voices filled the ship as repairs were made, both to its systems and the crew's fractured trust. Though scarred by betrayal, they found strength in unity, implementing new protocols while whispers of past events lingered. Greg's fate was sealed, not imprisonment but enforced service to repair the damage he had caused. Accepting his sentence, he faced a path of redemption. With fresh coordinates set, the ship ventured into uncharted space. Though the past cast its shadow, the crew's resolve remained strong. As they pressed forward, their journey became a testament to resilience, redemption, and the endless pursuit of discovery. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and ring the notifications bell so you never miss amazing tales like this one.